I think this story is kind of interesting. Maybe you'll find it interesting. And if not, you know where to let me know. You know where to let me know. I can't speak today, sorry. Maybe I should try making these episodes caffeinated. It is kind of late, you know. Anyhow, folks, what can we talk about? Life. Love. What is there to talk about? I'm not really sure. I have stories to tell, but not really in the headspace to really revisit them. At least not today. Interestingly enough, I have thought about, my relationship to the idea of relationships right now in my life. And I would like to be with somebody. I feel fairly productive and content with my life right now. There are a lot of personal projects, down the pipeline that I'm very excited to engorge myself in. Engorge. Maybe I should read a dictionary before I make one of these episodes, don't you think? And, there are some people in my life right now, from a personal friend group perspective, as well as some from a professional perspective, that I'm starting to generate, I'm a very, and this is probably not the best thing, but, I do tend to, pay a little bit more attention to certain people and, start gravitating, an interest or an endearment to certain people, which furthermore escalates, tiny crushes with a lot of people. And I'm reminded of how much, interestingly enough, George Carlin had a really interesting quote that he said with Conan O'Brien back in the day, where it was like, he loved people. He just hated people in groups, Any neurodivergent can probably understand the significance of that phrase, One-on-one, pitch perfect human experience. 10 out of 10 would play again. When they're starting to multiply, it's kind of like, maybe a dictatorship isn't the most I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Kidding. And one of the best experiences that I've had in my life happened last year. And I was able to learn a lot more about myself, about what I can provide in a relationship. That has really made me think. That has made me, ponder and question stuff. And I'm not saying, I'm not pulling the whole, victim card of like, oh, I'm going to be alone all my life. No, man. It's more so, I know I have a lot of value. There are a lot of things that I'm confident about, things that I'm certain people can appreciate about me. I do feel like I have a lot to offer. It's just more so I've become a lot more weary or, more so picky of what kind of people I'm willing to share my life with in that, in a romantic sense, to where whenever I'm, developing these tiny crushes, I do tend to, and this is probably, not an earth-shattering fact or an interesting tabloid to, share with random strangers on the internet. I'm starting to assume that maybe that's, the proper and responsible thing to do before, you actually start, asking people out. You're getting to see them in that light at least. It's probably, the right thing to do, and I'm just, finally realizing it now, 23 years old. Regardless, it's happening. And you kind of start gravitating more towards certain people that fit the specific criteria of the emotional nuances that you need fulfilled even before you even remotely think about maybe talking to them a little more. Maybe actually sitting right next to them, trying to engage in conversation, trying to, set up all the necessary tools before you work on the groundwork, And you start prioritizing, will this person be an interesting, companion? Will they be respectful? Will they be nice? Will they be caring? Will they be, insert whatever quality you're looking for in a relationship? That pretty much, overpowers any, superficial, basic attraction that might be inherently added. And what I mean by that is maybe, tastes, maybe, political or emotional beliefs in certain topics, maybe just general conversation engagement, It's more so, this person does seem kind of like, boring and, doesn't really excite me from an emotional standpoint, but maybe they do provide some other, more, it could be anything, material, sexual, emotional maturity, stuff that I kind of like am looking for more. Not really so sexually, I mean, just so you know, I am a virgin currently, but I do identify myself as both demisexual as well as sapiosexual. I'll explain what that means in a moment. Demisexual is that, at least from my understanding of the terminology, I only have sexual desire for a person once a strong emotional connection and attachment has been developed. I don't really lead with my sexual foot whenever I'm dating or trying to get to know people, in a romantic sense at least. I'm repulsed of the idea of casual sex. It's kind of like, not really my thing. Sapiosexual, I am sexually and emotionally stimulated by people that at least seem more conventionally smart and intelligent. People with a high IQ, people with a good memory, interesting subject matters, know how to listen, have dominated social skills, have, increased maturity for their age, so on and so. Not the way that you're thinking, internet, not the way that you're thinking, but, people that, kind of like seem that they got everything together. And it's like, and obviously the insecurity talking, it's like, oh my God, whoa, I want you to hit me. What? Who said that? And that's the kind of thing that's the kind of stuff that I'm, more so, interested in, fulfilling for my next relationship. I do wish to, be in a serious, I don't imagine myself marrying, but I do kind of, I would love to have that one special person with me. The thing about it is that right now I'm in a point in my life that I'm very delicate with my time, and I'm more focused, from a professional standpoint. I'm prioritizing my own personal growth, development. I'm trying to improve my health. I'm trying to improve my physicality, for me at least, just so I can feel more confident with myself. And, my health is kind of waning in certain areas, so it's important, self-love and whatnot. It's important, take care of myself. So it's not so much a priority to get a girlfriend right now as much as, something that I don't really need, but my heart still kind of aches for. I love loving people. I love people. Really do. One-on-one conversations, that's amazing. I hate social events. I'll never understand, the whole emotional whiplash of that dilemma, man. It's like, I can't stand family functions. I can't stand parties, Of course, I've been to parties once in a while, more so, out of friend group obligations, And obviously, with that context, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for me to meet people. So, and I am pretty good at, forcing myself out of my own comfort zone for that sake, getting to know new people from a work environment, social environment, parties. I like to walk a lot in parks, and you'll always find people there. I'm pretty good with that. I feel like I have improved, but it's more so, I'm happy being alone, And in a really specific, kind of like masochistic way. I'm a hopeless romantic, as you can probably kind of read from everything right now. That I'm not really... I don't want to rush into anything. I blame myself for not being at the place that I am now at a younger age, to where I'm a little more socially confident. I like myself a little more than I did, a few years ago. And for the first time, I can actually list off some, positive attributes about myself without really thinking about it. And I know what I'm capable of in a relationship. I'm extremely, annoyingly so, I am clingy. I am incredibly detail oriented. I love making gifts, taking them out, listening to their interests, thinking about what they could, how can I make them happy, I'm pretty good with that. And it's always special and unique with everybody. I don't like the idea of, I don't like the idea of making a new crafty present idea for my next relationship that's going to be, a copy paste architect of what I did for my ex-girlfriend, It's like, no, that kind of card that you made for her last year, that kind of gift, that's for, at the time, the environment at the time. It's associated to the love you felt for them in that moment. And it's not going to be the same with the next person. There are going to be different nuances, different romantic connection. It's going to be somebody different. They're going to have their own taste. And I'm going to have my very specific love language adapt and evolve to whomever that be. So I know already how I love. That's what I'm trying to say. That I'm not opposed to the idea of waiting X amount of time to find love. If it means, dying a virgin, maybe not to that extreme, but I'm willing to wait. I just hope it's not too long, So that's that. I don't know if anybody can relate. If only I drank alcohol, these kinds of conversations would hit hard, especially now. Right now it's 1:13 a.m. in the morning right now. Jesus.